Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harris and I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books, and today I'm here to review Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising sequel series. So there was an original trilogy of 3 books, obviously because it's a trilogy, and there is currently a trilogy of sequel books, and there is a planned 7th book. So this is going to be a fully non-spoiler review. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about plot, characters, my problems with the book, my things I loved about the book, my kind of overall thoughts and experience, and then anything else that comes to mind, really. I'm not going to be giving you spoilers for this particular book. There will be things like I'll name characters, so you'll know that those characters are in this book. If there are any that are like a big reveal, I'll try not to spoil that for you. Also, I will possibly be referring to plot points from previous books. So if you haven't read any of the Red Rising books, then this is probably not the best first video from my channel for you to watch. But if you either don't care about spoilers or you have read all these books, then please continue on with me. And yeah, so, well, I'm going to say all these books. I mean, read every book up to Iron Gold. So that's the one that anything in those 4 books is kind of fair game. But let's talk about this particular book, Dark Age. So I ended up rating Dark Age a 4 out of 5. And the interesting thing is that most of this book was a 5 out of 5. So this book is split into multiple parts. I can't remember actually how many parts, which is bad. Let's have a look. Oh, don't worry, there's no contents page. I think it's 4 or 5 parts. I guess we could scroll through and try and find out. That would make great video for everyone watching. Anyway, so it's either 4 or 5 parts, and what I will say is 4. Part 1 is part 1 I really struggled with. So part 1, you have 2 points of view, and that's it. You have Darrow and Lysander, and in Iron Gold, Lysander was possibly my favourite point of view, and Darrow was my least favourite. That continues into this book. Darrow is my least favourite point of view, and one of the problems is that Darrow's chapters are all kind of samey. They don't have much variety, and one of the big problems with part 1 of this book is that the Lysander chapters read like Darrow chapters. So because I was not loving the Darrow chapters, that kind of meant that I wasn't loving the Lysander chapters, and all in all it meant that I have to say I almost DNF'd part 1 of this book. So if I hadn't already kind of read 4 books in the series and kind of trusted my friends who I asked for advice on this, who said no, it is an excellent book, like you'll enjoy it, just keep going. So I did, and I ended up really enjoying the book. So basically the second we hit part 2, I was like way more involved and invested, but part 1, even though there's 2 different audiobook narrators, sometimes when I was listening to the audiobook, I wouldn't notice when we switched point of view because the chapters were so samey. And I think every single chapter that I listened to via audio for part 1 of this book, I ended up going back and re-listening to the beginning of. So like I would get 1 or 2 minutes in and be like, oh, I have no idea what's going on, and I'd have to restart the chapter, which was a nightmare when I was listening to the audiobook while going for a run. Because I'd have to, like, while running, get my phone out of my pocket and scroll back, and you don't care about that. But yeah, part 1 I genuinely really struggled with. Darrow's chapters actually really improved in this book. So I felt like in Iron Gold, a lot of Darrow's chapters were just kind of more of the same sort of stuff. I really enjoyed the prison assault on Deep Grave, but I felt like the majority of like the beginning of his stuff and the end of his stuff I was not that bothered by. Whereas across this book, from part 1 onwards, when Darrow was in kind of more a quite different situation for him, so he's kind of really he's really on the back foot. He's not the most capable person in the room. He's not the voice of reason, the smartest guy. Darrow is very much in books 1 and kind of book 4, but 1 through 3 and kind of 4. He's very much like the Gary Stu of sci-fi. He's very like super capable, smarter than everyone, physically powerful, more powerful than anyone, more talented than everyone. But he starts to come a cropper in Dark Age, and multiple times needs to have his irons kind of pulled out of the fire by other characters, and I really liked that in this book. The other thing, Darrow, kind of his arc across the book was really fantastic. Really liked it. We also get to spend a lot more time exploring other cultures in this book. So the most pointless part of Morningstar is the section where Darrow goes to speak to the Obsidian Queen, and it was just completely pointless because it never actually mattered in the frame of the story. Whereas, was that the... No, it was something else that didn't matter. The Obsidian stuff kind of mattered. Anyway, probably spent too much time on that in Morningstar, to be honest. The like recruitment side missions in Morningstar were like way too much of the story. Anyway, in this, through the character of Ephraim, who became my favourite point of view as we crossed between Iron Gold and Dark Age. So in Iron Gold, I really liked Ephraim because he was just a completely different type of character. He was very emotionally damaged. He was a master thief / infiltrator / assassin, and just a very, very different type of character to Darrow and Lysander. And then in Dark Age, Ephraim is not only this very different type of character, but he's kind of isolated into this new group of characters, this group of Obsidians, and he's kind of he's showing us their culture through his eyes that we're accustomed to his point of view. So Ephraim's story in particular, really, really fantastic in this book. I really like the relationships that he builds across the book. And the kind of discoveries he makes about himself and how he feels about certain characters from this and from Iron Gold. Really, really well done. Really loved Ephraim's story in this. And then Lysander. Lysander was not as interesting to me as he was in book 1. Lysander's story in this book and in Iron Gold mostly revolves around politicking, infighting and manoeuvring amongst gold families. So you have a lot of the typical, and not typical, but like you have a lot of the like kind of understood gold antics, I guess, and like infighting. And I thought that was quite interesting in book 1, in Iron Gold, because those golds were kind of different to the like core society golds that we knew in the first trilogy. But in this book, we're kind of back with those older characters again, and a lot of the interesting characters from Iron Gold are kind of left behind, which was less fun, I'll be honest with you. Lysander's storyline really picks up towards the end, and I really enjoyed his relationship with the Master Maker in this book. I think his name's Quirastes or Quirastes. I'm reading it, so not always great on name pronunciation, because I used the audiobook a lot for this book, but I can't actually remember any chapters of Lysander's that I listened to just by happenstance. Most of those ended up getting read on ebook or hard copy. But so yeah, really enjoyed his relationship with Querastes, and it's really cool to see Lysander giving like time, attention, and respect to low colours or mid colours. I really liked that aspect of his character because he's not like a cut and dried panto villain like the villains in the first trilogy were. He's a lot more nuanced and interesting, and also, is he a villain? Because he's kind of a protagonist. He's kind of one of the points of view, and it kind of feels like there's a lot of room for him to move around in this book. He could be the out and out villain of the series. He could be a heroic character who joins up with Darrow and fights for the abolition of the caste system, the return of the Republic. Speaking of the Republic, we've also got points of view from Virginia in this book. So I believe she has like one or two scattered ones in Iron Gold, but she becomes a much more important character in this book. Well, actually, she's important in Iron Gold, but she becomes a point of view character, and one that we spend a lot of time with. And she was a fantastic addition to this book. Really enjoyed her chapters. It's really good to get her point of view, because she's kind of mysterious across the first trilogy, because Darrow doesn't really know what's going on with her until really the very end of the series. Whereas in this book, we actually get to see how she feels, and one of the big things that I really enjoyed, and the thing that we get to spend a lot of time with, is the kind of like pull she feels between her life, her love, and her responsibility. So she knows that without her, the Republic doesn't really work currently. And she has this kind of dream of like, once I've nailed this whole Republic thing, then we can actually move, I can move away, I can step back, and I can have friends, I can have family, I can retire. And she's kind of got that in her mind. Very kind of like Batman in the movie The Dark Knight, where he's talking about how he wants Harvey Dent to get elected as district attorney, or so that he wants Harvey Dent basically to succeed and take down the mob so that he can step away and stop being Batman. And that's it's kind of a mirror to what Virginia's going through here. She wants it to, spend time with her husband and her son, and not to, try and steal someone's girlfriend. But the thing that I really, really liked was how real that dream feels. Like, being able to step away from responsibility and just spend time with your family is something that I think a lot of people with families really want to do. And then I just thought that her chapters were truly fantastic. And in particular, one of her chapters is a proper highlight of the book. I think everyone will know, if you've read this book, exactly what chapter I'm talking about. I won't even give the chapter number, because I don't want you to kind of get spoiled on it if you're watching this from a non-spoiler point of view. But that particular chapter was truly, truly fantastic. And getting to see that from Virginia's point of view was really, really good. And I really liked all of her chapters across this book. There's not really a dud in between them, because she's either kind of scheming and planning, or politicking, or she's like in the thick of some really fantastic scenes. So kudos to Pierce Brown for including and for writing her so well, because she was just genuinely really good. Moving on to some other characters here. So we've got Lyria is one of the other points of view. Lyria has some really great action in this book. One of the things that's great about Lyria is that because she's a red, she's like 3 feet shorter than every other character and much smaller, much more fragile, and she knows it. And that's a big part of her character across this book, which I really liked. You know, it's good to get that point of view in these books, because we don't, you know, Darrow is a red in Red Rising for like a couple of chapters, you know, like he's carved into a gold pretty soon on. But Lyria has been a red for the whole of Iron Gold, and for, you know, and is a red in this book as well. And she's got, you know, she's so vulnerable, she's so weak, but she's so emotionally strong, and I really enjoyed that part. And I really liked also her kind of begrudging befriending of 2 other characters, which I don't want to spoil here, but there is an incredibly sad moment with one of those characters, which I thought was fantastic to be delivered from Lyria's point of view, because she's got no like sympathy for this character as a person, but when she sees what she's going through, I think she starts to realise that actually, despite, you know, that this gold that she's doesn't like and has been, you know, adversarial towards her, she starts to realise that the golds, the obsidians, are people. And then she also, there's a fantastic sequence where she kind of rallies a group of reds to fight back against the people that are oppressing them, and that was really, really good. And it's interesting that she's kind of an interesting parallel to Darrow, because Darrow is, you know, like I say, he's a red for a short amount of time, and then he's kind of pushed into the sphere of the golds, where Lyria is a red the whole time, and she's using everything she can, she's improvising like Darrow often does, to kind of get reds to rise up. And I really like that section. I loved a lot of the characters that were introduced in there as well. So like, I think the character's name is Duncan, and that kind of takes a shine to Lyria, and I liked him a lot, and the way that you know, the way that he was written and the way that his story unfolded was really well done. Have we talked about every point of view now? Yes, because we've talked about Darrow, Lysander, Virginia, Ephraim, and Lyria. Darrow is still the weak limb of the tree, but all of them were really well done, and I really liked their storylines. I really like where this book ends as well. There's one funny thing that I wanted to kind of bring up, which is that the title of this book is Dark Age, and Pierce Brown will not let you forget that. He is referencing it constantly. Quite funny that nobody has really said Dark Age previously in this series, and I think that I was listening to the audiobook, and whilst I did the weekly shop this week, and honestly, I feel like it was mentioned or referenced in every chapter I listened to that day, which is kind of funny. And it's a bit heavy-handed, but that's really the worst thing that I can levy at this book, aside from part 1 not really working for me. All the other parts had a much stronger mix of point of view. All the other parts were much more thrilling and intense and emotional. There were a couple of really big deaths in this book that kind of got me in the feels, and a couple of character returns that I thought were really good. There was one other kind of minor problem I have with this book, and it's kind of a thing with Pierce Brown really, is that he does this thing, he doesn't, where he'll do like a big surprise reveal, and he does it in previous books where like it's treated as a surprise to the reader, but the reader is in the first person point of view of Darrow, so should know the kind of card he's about to play. He does that a lot in Iron Gold as well. He doesn't really do that here. I think hopefully this is where he's had the criticism and he's like, okay, I need to stop doing that. But he does do something which I think is also weird, which is he will like treat something as if it's a massive shocking surprise when you're like, well, yeah, like I've been waiting for that to be revealed. It was very clear across the rest of the book that that was what was going on with this character. So there's a big reveal with Lysander. There's a big reveal in one of Darrow's chapters, kind of near the end of the book, and it's one of those things where, you know, people come back from the dead, and it's like, well, if you didn't see a body, they aren't dead. Like that's kind of how all sci-fi fantasy stories really work. If someone dies off page, they're not dead. And so I had just been kind of waiting for that character to return. And there's another big reveal with Lysander about his parents and his grandmother. And I had been like, I had just expected that to be the case. And it was weird that Lysander hadn't caught on to that. Like, Lysander as a smart character who thinks things through, who thinks outside the box, it was very much like, I was surprised that he was surprised, if that makes sense. And that reveal felt like it was written to be like a big shock, gasp moment. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously, like that makes complete sense. Like, Sanderson has this theory, right, where he says that he likes it when people guess his big reveals because he wants, yeah, if people can guess the big reveals, that means that they were well foreshadowed throughout the series. And like, I like that too. I really like that style. But I think that when Sanderson does that, he doesn't treat them as like a big atomic bomb moment. He treats them kind of as like a, and there you go, you were right all along sort of thing. And that's not the way that we get that from Pierce Brown in this. I'm really excited about reading Lightbringer though, because people say that Lightbringer is the best book in the series, and that it is a truly fantastic, shocking, brilliantly written book, and I'm very excited for that. I remember when I first started my channel, I went around to all the other booktubers that read sci-fi fantasy that had started in 2023, same as me, and I said to them, you know, what was the best book you read this year? And like half of the 20 people that I asked said Lightbringer, which was what made me read Red Rising in the first place. But Morningstar really put me off the series because I really didn't enjoy it that much. And people also said Iron Gold wasn't very good. So I was very much like, well, you know, whatever. Like, I'll just leave this series and I'll come back to it whenever. But then I decided to pick up Iron Gold because a couple of my friends had read it recently, and it just like really lit a fire under me. I loved Iron Gold. That's why I went straight into Dark Age as soon as I could. And while the beginning of Dark Age did not light me on fire, the rest of the book really did. And apart from a couple of reveals falling flat and the overuse of the term Dark Age, really this book like properly nailed it and was a big step up from Iron Gold. Again, aside from part one. Part one I would say was a bit of a step down from Iron Gold, but the rest of the book was a big step up. So I'm really looking forward to Lightbringer. Let's chat about this book, you and me. So, have you read Dark Age? Drop what you thought about it down in the comments below. I'd love to have a chat with you about certain characters and reveals. Try not to be like mega spoilery because this is technically a non-spoiler video. But if you can kind of talk around something, I've just read the book, so I'll probably know what you're talking about, and it would be great to have a nice conversation about this. If you liked this video review, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then you probably should, because I'll be reviewing Lightbringer probably sometime in October. And that's a long way away, so you know, you might want a notification to tell you when that review goes live. And the best way to get that is to subscribe to the channel and maybe even click the bell icon. Maybe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll speak to you on Wednesday.